Welcome back to another episode of the Conquerors Crew. And every week before I get into it with our guest, we have an awesome guest today and a very interesting topic, and probably a topic that some of you probably need to know a little bit more about, even though you may not really want to. Interesting enough. But I always talk about the Conquerors Crew pillars just for a minute or two to remind you what they are if you've forgotten. And if you're brand new to the show, then this is your first time, and you get to hear them fresh for the first time. Okay, so the first one is hope, and for us at Conquerors Crew, hope stands for helping other people excel, and we just like hope because it seems like if you are able to muster, if you're really down in the dumps and you're really struggling, and if you can just muster up a little bit, and maybe your friend calls and you aren't even sure, and but you can pull yourself together and you can give them some advice. It seems like it just comes around faster, right? I don't know why that is. It just seems like it is. I mean, I don't question the laws of the universe. I just try to make them work for me. So the next one is grit. And the G stands for grace. And I'm not talking about like giving grace for others in the second chance. I'm talking about the kind of grace like being kind to yourself. Give yourself some grace. Don't be so hard on yourself all the time. And the second one is resilience. And a lot of people say, "Man, I never could have done what you've done, Trent. I mean, beating cancer 3 times." Human beings are amazing creatures. We rise to the occasion, but don't expect that you're going to run an Ironman the first time. That you need to have a little resilience. It's a build-up process, like anything else. Takes a bit of hard work, but you can build that and get better at it. The next one is integrity. The I is for integrity. And I'm not talking about the kind of integrity like, hey, when you see somebody, screwing up, messing up, you say, hey, you're breaking the rules. I'm talking about the kind of integrity at 3:00 in the morning when you're up all night and you look yourself in the mirror. Are you going to be honest with yourself? That's the kind of integrity I'm talking about. And the last one is teachable. And, it seems like anytime you get cocky and you get a little bit full of yourself that you knocked off your high horse. And I think I try to remain teachable every day. And so we have hope, grit, and no quit. Those are our 3 pillars. If it's your first time here, welcome. And I'd like to introduce our guest. Thank you for listening, Rosalind. So we have Rosalind Sedacca, and she is a coach with divorced parents and children and co-parenting and all that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit more about that, Rosalind, if you will. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, a divorce and co-parenting coach, and I specialize in working with people who have children. Because if you're divorcing and there's no children involved, no matter how contentious the divorce experience is, it ends. And then you go about your business and you never have to see each other again. But when you're a parent, it's totally different. Co-parenting is a lifelong experience, hopefully for you. And you want to do the best job you can, not because of your ex, but because you love the children.
Right.
And you don't want your children to suffer emotionally and psychologically from the consequences of divorce done wrong, which we've all seen far too much.
Right.
So what I do is help parents avoid the serious mistakes they don't have to make to give their children, to protect their children and give their children the best possible outcome, so the children don't pay the price for the divorce.
Right. That's so noble. That's so awesome, because it does seem like most of the time the kids, right? They feel guilty, or they're the reason, or it's just hard, right? When you've only got one parent in the house, and they're always like 1 week here, 1 week there. I think it's hard to get in a groove and get into a routine when things are like that. So God, hey, that's really cool. I'm very interested because God, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but like, do you know how many people are divorced a year now in the U.S. or any statistics like that?
Approximately 50% of marriages end in divorce now, and that's even worldwide. It seems to be just a universal equation. And of course, there's a lot more, because the fact that people who aren't married separate, break up. It's not called divorce, but it's the same. The children are having the same consequence if they've been living with someone for 5 years and suddenly they don't have those two people in the parental role anymore.
Right.
So the number is definitely high, and it's something we want to avoid. And I myself wasn't planning on getting a divorce.
Right. Right. Yeah. I have seen like some of my friends, and 10, 20 years later, one of them changes quite a bit, and they're kind of not the same person, and they have different priorities. And I think it's tough. And people just tend to, like, they don't want to work through the hard yards, and it's easier just to kind of say, no, I don't want to do this. But then once you do, it's kind of the point of no return, isn't it? And gosh, I've got a family member that's recently gotten divorced, and it is nasty, man. And there's 2 kids involved, and it's rough, man. It's so rough.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't.
You're right.
And that's what I'm all about.
I love it. Now, how long have you been doing this? And tell us a little bit. I mean, you do coaching. Do you do like group coaching, one-on-one, guys and girls, or both? You've got courses as well. I know it looks like you've been doing this for 20 years.
Yes. And this year is my 20th anniversary of being a divorce and co-parenting coach. So a quick story about how I got into this, because this wasn't my original career. I was involved in advertising and marketing as my career. And I was in a marriage, and the marriage was slowly deteriorating, and things were getting more and more difficult. And there was a lot of fighting at home, and my son was starting to show signs of tension, headaches, and things like that. It wasn't a good environment, and I knew we had to make a break. But I put it off for years and years, and I went to therapy, and I did a lot of workshops trying to keep the marriage together. And so my son was 11 years old when I finally made the decision we had to do this. Right. And this was back in the 90s. So there wasn't a lot of information back then to support people making that big decision. So my ex and I had to figure out what to do, how to raise our son, how to keep from the conflict low, and make sure that we were both there in my son's life, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And we did. We raised our son. He grew up, he went off to college. And one day when he was in his early 20s, he came over and he said, Ma, you and Daddy really did a great job with the divorce, and I want to thank you, because most of my friends whose parents divorced either hate their parents or are very angry at them. And I think you and Daddy really did a great job, and I'm so proud of you. And I was really shocked, and it took my breath away, and I stopped and I thought about it, and the moment became a real catalyst, because I realized I had learned so much about what to do and what not to do, and how to do it best, and how to make sure we protected our son. And so ultimately I founded the Child-Centered Divorce Network, became a certified divorce and co-parenting coach. And because my background was in writing, I ended up writing a lot of books and courses and programs for people who couldn't afford one-on-one coaching. So I do one-on-one coaching nationally and internationally, but I also have the books and courses and programs, especially on anger management for co-parents, which is really important, because it's the anger issues that harm everyone in the family, including the person with the anger issues. And I also have a book on breaking the divorce news to children, which is one of the most difficult conversations any parents will ever have. And there's a better way of doing it that gets better results. And then I also talk a lot about dating after divorce, because when you're dating and you're single, but you are a parent, it's different than being out there and when you don't have children, and you have to think differently. And there's different levels of jealousy and insecurity in your ex, in your children, in the new love partner. And so it gets very complicated. So a lot of my clients that I work with getting through the divorce, 2 years or 5 years or more later on will come to me and say, now I'm in a love relationship, or I'm looking to date, and I want to make sure I don't make the same mistakes again.
Right.
And so the co-parenting continues for the rest of your life if you're
Right.
doing it right. And that's what we want for our children, is to have the best experience, so our children aren't robbed of their childhood. And that's the basic foundation. We don't want to rob our kids of their childhood because we had a divorce. That's not fair.
Right. Right. Wow, solid. That's awesome. That's awesome. My family member is kind of holding out because his kids are like 14 and 12, and he's like, once they're 18, I'm out of here. I'm leaving this. I'm leaving where I live. I moved here for the family. I have nothing here. I'm gone, and I will never talk to the ex again. Does that kind of happen too? Once the child support's over and stuff?
Make sure that he's not also divorcing the children. Have to make sure that he keeps that relationship with the children, and the children, because that's what the children need and understand. One of the things that children need in a divorce is the ability to be loved by both parents. So we don't want either parent to put down the other parent and say, I'm the better parent and you should only be with me, and then try to estrange the children from their other parent. That not only hurts the other parent, it emotionally destroys the children, who usually love both parents and want both parents in their life. We also don't want the children don't want the parents to keep them from loving the other parents. And so the children want to be loved by both parents. They also want both parents to be able to love them. And that means that the parents have to be mature enough to understand that the kids want to have both parents in their lives either way. Right. And when they do, that's one step ahead. That's giving everyone a good foundation, because it continues the form of the family. We're not a family anymore. We're not love partners anymore as parents, but we are still a family in the sense that we are the parents of children that we both love, we want to protect and take care of. And because of that, we have to act maturely, civilly, and remember that we're role models for our children, so that our children are watching what we say, what we do, what we don't do, what we don't say. And they're learning from us how to deal with conflict in life, how to deal with difficult issues. Are you stepping up to be a parental role model, or are you doing things that are embarrassing your children and making them ashamed that you're the parent?
Right. Yeah. I think that if you put down the other parent and you talk bad about them, you put the kids in a position, right? And I think most of the time they want to defend. They'll go into defense mode, and then it's usually more like the kids and the parent against you. And I think you really probably hurt yourself in the long run. It's better just to stay neutral, don't say anything, right?
You're absolutely right, Trent. That's a big difference. And again, it's a step towards acting in a mature, responsible way as a parent. Yeah. Letting your higher self come out, because that's what you want your children to see and learn from.
Kind of got a question within the topic. People get, you kind of have them half and half or whatever. Talk to me a little bit about like when they have to do the kids and the exchange of the kids. It seems like that's a very emotional thing for, like my family member to have to see the ex and, deal with the ex for a few minutes. And it's really a tension deal. Do you have any tips or tools or advice about that?
Yeah. Well, in the most extreme cases, the two parents shouldn't see each other. There should be a place or an intermediary person where you could drop it off at someone's house, a neighbor or another family member, and then the two parents don't have to interact. Because if the two parents are fighting or just mistreating each other or just eye rolling, and the kids can pick up on the tension. If any of that's happening, it isn't worth it for the kids. So the parents shouldn't have anything to do with each other. The better way is for the parents to say, we're parents, our kids are watching us. Let's step up and be the role models we should be and treat each other civilly. And so you talk nicely to one another. And anytime you have disagreements, which are inevitably going to come up, you say, okay, I'll call you tonight at 9 and we'll talk about this. Or let's have a cup of coffee somewhere else tomorrow, and whatever that is. The most important thing to remember is we never get the kids involved in adult information, even the older teens, because first of all, their brains aren't designed and can't understand the complexities of our problems. If they could, we would have been able to do it ourselves. These are problems that are so complicated and convoluted. That's why we reach out to professionals for assistance. It's no child can fix your relationship problems. So keep your children out. Once your children are exposed to adult information of any kind, whether you're sharing it, whether they're hearing it accidentally on the phone or whatever is going on, it changes who they are because they become little adults. Suddenly their brains are trying to figure out how to fix mom and dad's issues, which we know can't be done. They are no longer have the innocence of a child. They are now little adults, and that's lifelong. Suddenly they've lost their childhood innocence and they're thinking about problems that they shouldn't have to think about. Let them be children as long as they can. Life is complicated in our world. Being a child today is very complicated.
Yeah.
We don't want to throw them into something that they can't fix, that it's not within their realm, and they shouldn't be knowing about. So it's very important that parents keep that from the kids. And that means you never use your child as a confidant. So even if you have a precocious teenager who says, hey, dad, tell me more about this. What is the problem? Or hugging mom and say, I'll be the man in the house, or I'll be your assistant, mom, and I'll help you with everything. Once they go into that role and try to talk to the parent as an adult, they're parenting their parents, and the parents have lost their role as the parent. It changes the whole dimension of respect and maturity. And again, children end up with emotional, psychological issues as they're growing up, and anger when they grow up, because that's not what they want to experience and hear. So we just keep that from them. It's the gift we're giving them is not to pull them into our emotional drama.
Right.
And so we're here to love them and to show them how to grow up in the best possible way as mature young adults and mature adults. And if we're not behaving that way and we're changing the roles, it's going to harm our children. And it changes their brains, it changes their personalities, and they can't go backwards. Most people don't think about that beforehand. And it seems so innocent to just confide and say, this wouldn't be happening if your mom didn't have an affair, if your father wasn't an alcoholic. That may be the truth. And we may feel very justified in having a divorce because of that, but not to share with the children, even if it's the truth, because it's not the children's place to get involved in adult situations, which is so much more complicated than they could possibly understand. And we're protecting them. It's the gift we're giving them is to be a child and have their childhood. Even the older teens, it's not their place. They can't fix us. And that's why there are divorce coaches and therapists in the world who are so experienced with all of this. We've done this again and again and again, and we're much more able to give you the support you need, suggestions, ideas, the emotional and psychological support, the wisdom, the advice with the lawyers, all of those kinds of things, because there's better ways of doing things and worse ways of doing things. And we want to steer you into the course of doing it in the best possible way for everyone in the family.
Right. What if one of the parents kind of, they use the kids as a bargaining chip or kind of as a pawn, and how do you handle that part?
And it happens far too often, unfortunately. It's another very sad sign of divorce done wrong. And usually the children grow up to resent you and hate you. So parents can manipulate their children very easily when they're children. Kids are innocent and they trust both parents and they trust what you're saying to them. So kids will innocently get involved in being pawns. And one parent can blackmail or threaten the other parent. If you don't do such and such, then I'm going to not let you spend time with this child. I'm going to cancel the vacation plans. There's all kinds of ways we can really hurt one another. And that's parental alienation, when we're intentionally out to really hurt the other parent and separate them from their child. It's the worst form of divorce done wrong. But when we do that, children grow up and they will hold you responsible. And that's why there are so many angry adult children of divorce who've written books and who talk to therapists and are very outspoken, because they're angry. They know they've been mistreated, they've been abused, they've been manipulated, they've been used as pawns, and they resent it. So you may be able to get away with anything right now and think you're really slick and smart, or you may be able to buy your way. One parent has much more money than the other parent, and the sugar daddy, the person who's going to give them just all the treats and take them everywhere and think they're going to get their affection. But again, usually it turns out that the kids realize what's going on ultimately and get offended because they're understanding a little bit more about what's going on, and they're realizing that they're being bought, they're part of a game, or they're part of a power struggle. So the important thing for us to tell our friends and family who are involved in any of these things is that children are smart. They can't physically explain to you exactly what they're feeling, but they are feeling what they're feeling, and they know what they're feeling, and they will hold you accountable ultimately. Right. So you're not getting away with a lot of the things you think you're getting away with, and you're hurting your children. And that's something parents, if they knew it from the get-go, they may think and make different decisions. Why hurt your children? If you really love them, why do something that's going to turn them into not liking you, disrespecting you, or being emotionally messed up and ending up in a therapist's couch when they're adults?
Right. Yeah. Hey, that's really good advice. What if you do have one of these, kind of crappy role models, shall I say, and they continue to talk bad about the other parent, or even lie about it, right? And make stuff up and tell the kids stuff like that. How does a parent deal with that when the other one's kind of not playing by the rules, so to speak?
Another great question, and another scenario that happens too often. And what we have to do, because we can't counter some of that bullying behavior, so we have to be the role models, and we have to behave differently. Change the subject. Let the kids see and experience when they're with you. Do they feel safe? Do they feel loved? Do they feel secure? Or when they're with the other parent, are things more tense? Is there more agitation? Is there more manipulation? They can pick up on differences, and very often they will slowly decide they don't want to spend as much time with the bullying parent or the aggressive parent, or they realize that they're getting played and they don't like it, especially when they're teenagers and can understand more about the situation. So again, we can fool our kids and manipulate our kids into anything for a while, but long run, the children very often will pick up on these things and really resent their children. Like my son said, most of his friends' parents either hate their parents, or most of my son's friends either hate their parents or are very angry at them because of those behaviors that you're talking about. So when it's done differently, you feel the connection with the children, you feel the rapport, and you feel the children feel that they can trust both of their parents. And it's safe if one is at home, at your home, they feel safe to say, hey, I want to call Dad. I have a question to ask him. And the mother doesn't go crazy and say, you can't call Dad. It's my night tonight. Those kinds of things. You want parents who are going to do favors for each other, be cooperative with one another, because you're going to need each other. There's always going to be emergencies when you're dealing with co-parenting. There's going to be times when the plans change suddenly because of work or an accident or sickness, and suddenly you say, hey, I need a favor. Can you do this? Can you do that? Of course I can, because I know that I'm going to need that favor too at another point in time. We don't know when, but who are we doing it for? We're doing it for the kids to make their life smoother and easier, so we don't give the kids drama that they can't handle. And when we think like mature adults that way, everything goes smoother. And you could have sometimes when both parents can be together. I know for your friend right now or your family member, this is not possible. He's very, very angry and feels justified. But that's a good time to go see a coach and talk about it. And what makes me different from most other divorce coaches is I like to get both parents on the screen in front of me together at the same time. So, so even though one of them will contact me, I will say to them, for your children's sake, I'm here to represent your children. And I don't side with mothers or fathers because I've seen terrible examples of mothers and fathers, believe me. So what I try to do is get them both to hear the same message, and I shake them up. I say, if this is the situation and you make this choice, the consequences are going to be here. If you make that choice, the consequences are going to be there. What do you want for the children that you say you really love and care about? Is this the direction you want to send them in? Do you want them to be fearful and angry and turn within and stop having friendships with their friends, or become bullies at school, or become aggressive, or leave home early, or become violent? And all of these things happen because kids know what they're feeling and they don't know how to express it necessarily, but they're hurt, they're wounded, and they're wounded because their parents didn't understand how easily it is for children to be hurt and scarred, and how easy it is for parents to do one thing, and that is to say, I'm sorry, when they realize they made a mistake. If you could sit down in front of your child, look the child in the eye and say, Mom should never have said that. That was a terrible thing I said, and I apologize. Can you forgive me? Dad really regrets making that decision. That wasn't a smart decision to make, and I hope you can forgive me for doing that. When kids see their parents being able to apologize, then they grow up being able to apologize themselves, and they have healthier relationships, which is why we're here, is to help them have better relationships. And so they're learning some things about handling conflict. Sometimes we compromise. Sometimes we agree to disagree. Sometimes we take turns getting the turn because we can't both do things simultaneously, but we work on it. We don't just get into a position where we hate the other person so much.
Right.
And so sometimes it takes a third party like me to talk to both of those people and say, listen, you're adults, your kids are counting on you. What do you want their experience to be? And we could change it from today on. And many clients have made shifts and changes that they never thought they would. That's what keeps me going, because you could see I'm passionate about this.
Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. So do you think kind of if the kids are getting played a bit or used as a pawn or leverage or something, maybe they really can't do much when they're kids, right? They kind of know. Do you think it's kind of after? Is it more after that they hold the parents accountable, when they're 18 or when they're out of the house or in college? Or
well, it starts much younger. They can start at 11, yes, and be very angry because they know they're being played or manipulated, or one parent is mistreating the other parent, and they're helpless to do anything about it. Kids know a lot, so it can start at any age. When kids are acting out and suddenly their personality is changing, whatever direction, if their grades are going down, or if their behavior is different, if they have friends that they no longer want to see anymore, any of those things are signs early on that there's something emotionally troubling them. And that's why it's very good to talk to the school, to the teachers, to the people at the schools, and let them know a divorce is taking place. Please let us know if the kids are changing their behaviors. Some children turn in and they just close off, and some of them are even suicidal because they can't handle attention. Other children, and it could be in the same family, turn out, they become aggressive and bullying and abuse other people because they're seeing abuse in their own home and they're out, so they abuse other friends and people in the streets. Either way, it's not a healthy response to what's going on emotionally. So the more we can talk to our children, when we see anything, when we could tell they're troubled, just talking to the children and saying, what's going on with you, because I care. And don't make them wrong for feeling what they're feeling. So if you want your child to confide in you, you can't say, well, that's stupid. You shouldn't feel that way. No one ever meant to do that. Immediately you've lost the child. But if you say, so if I understand you, you're very, very angry because of what happened last Saturday when mom and dad did such and such. Is that right? Tell me more. And listen to them and then say, you know, I had no idea you felt that way. I'm really sorry that happened. Can we make a different decision now and do something differently? Will you promise to tell me when you're upset sooner and not hold things in? Whatever it is, you're talking to them, not at them. And they're much more willing to accept that you're hearing them, because everyone, adults and children, want to be heard, want to be validated, want to be accepted. Yep. So kids are the same way. They could tell when you're mistreating them, when you're not respecting them. Yep. And that's when we get into trouble. The sooner we handle these things, as soon as we're aware of any of these problems, the quicker it is to unravel it and fix it. So you could fix it much more easily at 6 and 10 than at 16 and 22. Oh, but wow. It's the same child with the same problems. It just wasn't addressed earlier, and it gets much more complicated. Yeah. And of course, you don't want to be losing your children or their respect when they're adults.
Sure. What's kind of the top, one or two things that the co-parents get tripped up on, that you could offer, like, this is kind of what this always happens, and this is how you deal with it?
Well, the biggest mistakes, number one, is fighting around the kids. That means if they could hear you or see you, even if you're in another room fighting or if on the phone fighting changes who they are. It hurts them emotionally. Their brains can't handle it. Mm-hmm. So if you're starting to have some disagreement, just stopping and saying, listen, I'll call you later. We'll do it. We'll talk at this time, whatever it is. We'll meet in another place. That's the answer to that. We can't stop you from fighting and having disagreements, but you want to be doing adult things in adult places. That's the first big problem. Okay. Another one is putting down the other parent in front of or around the children, even eye rolling, body language and posture, just smirks, conversations on the phone with your friends when you say, oh, she's such a, kids pick up on all of this. That's very harmful to them. The child's not going to say anything to you, but it hurts them. It ruins the trust between you and the child, and it also creates more tension and anger in the entire family dynamic. So that's another no. Using your children as someone who has to make all the plans for the family, instead of talking directly to your ex, letting the child step in and say, tell your mom I can't make it Friday at 12 o'clock. I'm going to be there at 30 instead. Suddenly the child is in between all of this. Today we have sophisticated technology. All co-parents should be using text, email, special apps that are designed for co-parents so that the children are never involved, because it's not their place to be doing that. And again, the parenting the parent. Kids will step up and want to fix your marriage. They can't, but they will try. And so they'll step up to one or both of you and they'll say, oh, I feel so terrible. You're crying. Tell me more about what's happening. Don't give in to that and let your children start parenting you. They're well-meaning. It's coming from their hearts. It's coming from love from the children, but it's not healthy for the children, because who do they turn to for parental support, so parental support, when their own parents are looking to them for a hug and to
Right.
calm them and take care of them. Suddenly the roles are reversed and it can't be undone. So those are very important things to remember. And also reminding your children always that they are never at fault. Even if you're fighting about the kids, the children are not at fault. They didn't create the relationship problems that you're having as adults. So we always have to let the children remember that they're innocent. This isn't their fault in any way. No matter what they did, it's not their fault. It's us, it's our problem, and it's our problem that we'll fix. And
Yeah.
that's a big difference for them.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just I've kind of been looking at your website, and you have several courses here about coaching. How do I tell the kids? Can you talk to us a little bit about that one? I may just kind of, talk about ask you about the courses a little bit, but yeah,
Sure.
can you tell us about that one?
What I tell the kids about the divorce is a step-by-step guide in which I recommend that parents actually create a storybook in advance together. First of all, it puts both parents on the same page. And so they're working towards one goal, and that is having this difficult conversation with our kids that we love and having the same message. So if you prepare this storybook and I write the entire script, and then you customize and personalize it for your family with the names of your kids and everything customized, and then you tweak it a little so it's perfect for your family situation.
Yeah.
But it's written in a very positive tone. We include family photos, vacations from the past, and birthdays and happy times in life, and we remind the children that this is a part of our life, but it's only a bump. We are still a family. We will always be a family because we will always be your mom and dad. Nothing's going to change. Even if you're getting married to another person, you're still the parent of those children. That gives them a sense of security that the world isn't going to end, and that what's changing is the form of the family. And so we're going to be living maybe in different houses or different periods of time, seeing each other. Those things we can talk about. But the most important things is that you're not losing either of your parents, and that life is about change. Everything in life changes. You change your clothes styles and your haircuts and your grades in school and the sports you play and your friends you have. Nothing stays the same. Well, this is a change in the form of our family, but we're still the family that you love and need, and you can trust your parents to come to, and that's very important.
Yeah.
And when you put together this storybook that the kids could hold in their hand and see pictures of them and their family and times that were better in the past, and now we explain that things are not so good and we're going through a tense time that's difficult, but we're going to come over on the other side of this and get through it. We're going to make some changes. We're going to work things out, and it's going to work out okay. And you know why? Because both of your parents are working on it to make it okay. When the children have that sense of security that both parents are still parents, they're not lovers anymore, but they're parents, the kids can feel a little safer in moving on, that knowing that there's a future, that life isn't ending, because they don't know what life is going to be like after divorce, how scary that whole concept is, and insecure. And so then the children can reread this storybook again and again in the days and the weeks and the months to follow, reminding them of these messages that you've provided and that things are going to be okay for them. So it sets the family, everyone on the same page. It gets both parents to agree. There's no finger pointing. There's no blame of whose fault this is in any regard. There's no bad mouthing of either parent. And so everyone is feeling safe with this message. And I have a word of advice for parents once the divorce takes place, and that is when parenting questions come up. If one of the children says, "Hey, Dad, such and such and such, can I do that?" Instead of making an immediate decision, it's very smart to say, that's a good question. I have to think about it. I'm going to talk to Mom, and we'll get back to you. If you say we'll get back to you, that goes back to the way life used to be before the divorce. And that's all the kids need. They just want that sense of security that their parents working in their parental role, and they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to be parenting anyone. Then the decision you're making is going to be more united because the two of you are really talking about it. And then the kids are going to have less behavior problems and acting out problems because they know that they still have parents running the ship. It's very different when you have kids. Kids will break up parents and take advantage of parents who are separated and use one parent and say, ask the parent a question and then ask the other parent the question and try to get different answers and say, but mommy said you can do.
Right.
All of that doesn't have to happen if you think beforehand and realize what's possible, because kids are bright and they're going to take advantage. So once they know that both parents are still in the parental role, life at home is easier for everyone.
Right. Right. Wow. Do you talk to the kids too at times?
No, I only talk to the adults and prepare them for their children. There are child psychologists who specialize in talking to the children, and that's another universe entirely. So my goal is to talk to one parent or both parents. And as I said, I like to talk to both parents when I can, but get the parents to understand their roles and to feel secure and comfortable, because it's a frightening thing to become a co-parent and to be out alone when you're used to having someone else to share it with you. But very often, divorce is a better situation for everyone in the family. If there was a family that was filled with tension and fighting and no one speaking to each other, or just that, dark energy, then after the divorce, life can be much simpler and smoother for everyone. And some children actually thank their parents and say, it's about time. I wish you did this 5 years ago. So it isn't the divorce that's the problem. It's parents making bad decisions in the divorce. So divorced or not, if parents are making bad decisions, family life is going to be hell. But it doesn't have to be that way. And people like me are out there to help parents make better decisions.
Yeah. Very good. That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you talk more to men or women, or kind of 50-50? I'm just curious.
Or not, it's 50-50. It really is. I wasn't expecting that. I thought more women would be reaching out, and women certainly do. But to their credit, a lot of men, when it comes to knowing I'm a father, I don't want to lose my kids, then they'll reach out and they'll have the same questions and the same concern and the same issues. And that's why I learned after doing this that I could get both parents on the screen. And to their credit, a lot of parents, once they hear me berate both of them and say, you're both making terrible mistakes, this is not good for your children, it's fabulous to see that they can change the entire dynamic, and the children can accept the divorce and go through it smoothly. It doesn't have to be a nightmare that you've seen and are talking about, because a child-centered divorce, and that's why I named my business Child-Centered Divorce. A child-centered divorce is a divorce in which both parents are always taking the kids into account first, because they know the kids deserve the best from them. And when they do a child-centered divorce, it's just less contentious, less problematic. There's just less issues, because it's not win-lose. I don't believe in win-lose. And that's why there are some attorneys that I really am very angry at, because many attorneys think they're in a wrestling match. They think they're there. It's different if you have a certain kind of a law case where someone is a bankruptcy case or something, when it has to do with money and issues. But this is emotional issues, and there shouldn't be a winner and a loser in a divorce. It should be as fair and smooth and equitable as possible for the sake of the kids. So when I look at a divorce attorney who's advertising, and I read their ads, and as soon as I see them talking about winning at all costs, and we're going to protect you, and we're going to save you all this money and make sure you're not abused, they're not thinking about the children or the family. They're just thinking about the financial aspect of it. And I steer my clients away from those kinds of attorneys. I like mediators, and there's certain kinds of divorce, amicable divorce, and people who are working from the get-go to keep the family unit together. And
Sure.
those children are lucky because those children come out in a much better situation.
Right. What if you have one of the parents that, wants to speak with you and wants to work on it, and then the other one kind of won't, show up or commit or doesn't want to be involved with it?
And that happens, but it doesn't matter because the one parent I'm talking to is getting all of this that I've been saying to you. They're digesting it and they're saying, does this make more sense? Or should I do what my friends and my cousin did and my neighbors telling me to do? And when they think about it and realize what their friends are telling them to do didn't work out so well, they didn't have such a great situation, what are you learning from them? Then they realize that there's sense in what I'm saying. And I'm not the only one saying it. There's lots of high quality divorce coaches in the world who are saying similar things because our goal is to keep the family as united as possible and to protect the children emotionally as much as possible.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit more about some of your coaching, and some of your courses. You've got Parenting Beyond Divorce Guidebook. You've got a 10-hour program helping the children cope with the effects, anger management.
Yes. So anger management, for example, is a huge issue in a lot of divorces. And a person who has anger issues not only is angry about the divorce, they just have anger issues in life. And they can have anger issues with their boss, with their neighbors, with other family members. It's just one of those things. So the first step in understanding anger is to understand and be aware when it's your issue. It's hard for people who are angry people to admit and even own it. They always have an excuse to justify the anger. Everyone around them knows that they have issues, but they don't. So just understanding, reading about what anger is and how it erupts and the choices we have. We always have choices in life. We don't have to behave the same way we've behaved our whole life. We can choose to behave differently. And when we do, people react differently and things turn out differently. So this is an 8-hour program that I have for anyone who has anger issues. And it's something that you space out so you could take it in whatever gulps you want to take it for over the 8 hours. And it not only includes information to read, but there's quizzes and there's videos and there's lots of information to make it very interactive. But ultimately, you come away understanding how this is hurting your children, especially how this is hurting your own life, how it's the consequences are affecting you financially, emotionally, and physically, and in so many other realms of life, and hopefully helps you make a decision to shift and make some changes. And we can change when we choose to. Most people don't change because they don't choose to change. But I know you in your work, you must talk a lot about making changes in life and making better choices in life. And that everything that you talk about applies to co-parenting and all of that.
Sure.
I also have a free ebook right on the homepage of my website, right at the top, called Post-Divorce Parenting Success Strategies for Getting It Right. And that's absolutely free. Just enter your email address and you could download that. And it has a lot of the information I've been talking about and more to help parents make better decisions. We forget that we have choices and things. There really are decisions. Sometimes we look at things and say, oh, well, I have to do what Charlie said. I have to follow whatever my sister did. But that's not the truth. We can make different choices and better choices. And if we know that there are better choices, then we can make them. Most people just don't know. It doesn't have to be ugly, and it doesn't have to be mean-spirited, and it doesn't have to end up with your children being angry at you because of all the mistakes you made. And if you know that from the get-go, you're going into it with a different sense of what you want. And if you keep thinking about the children, you're more likely to make better decisions. Just think, is this the best thing for my child? And there's a good question that I suggest that your listeners can ask themselves. When a parenting decision comes up, ask yourself, would I be making the same decision and make the same answer if we were still married? Or am I changing my answer because we're divorced and I really hate that SOB and I want to get at them? If you're making a clear, clean parenting decision the way you would have before the divorce in better times, that's wonderful. That's the parenting decision you want to make. But if you know you would have said sure, yes to the kids, but now you know that mom wants it to be the opposite, and so you make a different decision, that's on you. That's when you're starting getting into toxic parenting, because your kids are getting the consequences of bad decisions that you're making.
Yeah.
And another important question for your listeners to ask themselves is, do I love my children more than I may dislike or hate my ex? Love my children more than I hate my ex? Your answer has to be yes, because if you don't love your children more, then you really need to go and see someone professionally immediately, because everything you do, every decision you're making is being based on something toxic.
Right.
And that's a life that isn't pure.
If people want to get in touch with you and they want to contact you, what is the best and easiest way to do that?
Very easy. My website is childcentereddivorce.com. That's centered with an ED. Childcentereddivorce.com, and everything to make appointments with me, to get my free book, to get all the coaching resources and books. I have tons of interviews and podcasts, and I have blog posts, articles, just tons of information about practically everything you could ask is there. So feel free to go through it all and take advantage of it all, and then reach out to me. And because if they mention that they're coming from Conquerors Crew, I will give an initial coaching session to anyone who's listening.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. I'll definitely put that in the notes and everything when we wrap up. And I always say this to the guys, if you like what Rosalind has been saying, and you go and check out the website and you see the stuff and you're thinking, man, I'd like to talk to her, then get the courage and send her a couple line email, because she can't read your mind. Okay. And she doesn't know that you want to talk unless you make the first step. And I can tell that if you would make the first step, she'll meet you wherever you are. And then you guys can work together, if need be. So I just always encourage you guys, you got to make the first step so they know, right?
That's really smart. Thank you. And also you could reach, if you put child-centered divorce into Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn and Instagram, I'm there too. So you could look me up by name or by child-centered divorce.
Yeah, and you also have a YouTube channel and Instagram, right?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. Is there anything that we've left out that we haven't covered that you think is important point that we should?
Well, I think to emphasize again about being a role model, seriously think about how your children are learning from you and what they're learning from you as a role model. Because if we stop and think about that, we're less likely to impetuously just make decisions or act in ways that we later regret. And so it's very important to keep that in mind. And if you do, your kids will forgive you and appreciate you, because they know it takes a lot of courage to be able to own up and take responsibility for what they're doing. And they're learning because they're going to be parents one day themselves. And so they're learning how to treat children, and that's so important.
Thank you. We're kind of winding down, and I want to say thank you. I can tell you are a wealth of knowledge, that you care, you genuinely care, and you want to help people. And I think it's noble. I think it's a great cause. It's definitely needed in society, and God, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Great talking with you, Trent.
Yep. And guys, just to remind you, okay, the website is child-centered ed divorce.com. Okay, there's a free ebook, tons of resources, all sorts of stuff. So if you feel like you want to talk to Rosalind, go out, check out the website, book a few minutes with her, free session. Okay, if you mention Conquerors Crew, what can go wrong, right? You get it's like a Baskin Robbins. You get to try before you buy. I mean, what can be better than that, right? So, anything else before we wind it down?
I think we've covered it all for now. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And guys, we're wrapping up. Please, if you have a comment or email, you can even, get in touch with me and I will send you over to Rosalind. Thank you so much, Rosalind. And guys, as we wind down, God bless, Godspeed to you this week. And never forget that grit don't quit. We are out.